A lot of crazy things we saw this weekend in college football, things that are becoming tougher and more inexplicable. Georgia keeps rolling. They're in their own category right now until I see otherwise. I'm putting the Georgia Bulldogs number one, and it's really a battle to try to figure out two through maybe six, seven, eight, nine. I don't know. I mean, Bama was that team at the beginning of the year. They've obviously lost the game, but they've struggled a handful of times, and then they struggled mightily with LSU at home, a program that's already fired their coach, had a number of guys opt out, and you're sitting here playing, for a chance that if you win out, you're going to the college football playoff, playing for a national championship, and you're messing around with the LSU Tigers. LSU's a talented team. I understand that talented roster. Coach was fired. A lot of players have opted out. Their secondary was pieced together, and Bama had a hard time moving the ball. And so they win that game by a score. But if you think about it, the Tigers had 3 drives that finished in Bama territory to close out the game. One was inside the 10. They had one down there trying to punch it in and couldn't do it. Alabama, I think, is talented, but they do have some chinks in the armor like they've never probably had before. I think a lot of that's due to consistency. And I'll get into this at the end of why I think all of these things have happened. You had Bama, you had Michigan State. We talked about it being a trap game versus Purdue. Purdue, really talented wideouts. Michigan State struggles defending the pass, but you thought they'd just be able to outscore them. They're going into West Lafayette. If you say it's a trap game all week, can it still be a trap game? Michigan State's defense couldn't come up big when they needed to. Offensively, they scored 29 points, but they gave up, almost 500 yards passing. They didn't have Jalen Naylor, they're one of their star wide receivers, so that impacted the offense a little bit. But ultimately, the game's 37-29. You're down 8. All you need is a stop to be able to get the ball back, drive down, score, and get a 2-point conversion. There was going to have to be some help offensively to get that done, but defensively, they could not get the stop. They end up yielding a field goal, which puts it at a 2-possession game, 11 points. And the game at that point is all but over. And so, as I look at the Michigan State Spartans, you knew it was a trap game. You knew what they were good at. You knew David Bell was going to be out there and be really, really good. You couldn't slow him down, and it's perplexing and befuddling. Mel Tucker, their head coach, defensive backs coach by trade. Defensive back play was bad, and the tackling was not good on that side of the football. And so Spartans got to clean it up. As college football rankings come out, we'll see where they all fall with everything that goes into that. But perplexing. Number 3, just got the victory. They've got Ohio State coming up. They've got Penn State, on the horizon. And this is the game that you ultimately lose. Big Ten can't have nice things. Should have been big time matchups at the end of the year. And I think it still will be. But I think it showed that Michigan State does have some flaws, does have some weaknesses. You go out west, Oregon taking on Washington. A lot of the same. Washington scores first, early turnovers by Oregon. Lots of issues that they had to deal with. If it wasn't for a safety late in the game by the Ducks, it would have been a 1-possession game as well. The Oregon rushes for 300 yards, but it's just mind-boggling. Like we talked about this, potentially a trap game. Going into Washington, tough environment to play in. Everybody knows and understands that. It's just amazing that Oregon wasn't better. This is a Washington team that got beat up by Michigan to start the year. Yes, I know they're healthier now, but it's just befuddling to me how we're beginning to see some of this in the parity that is existing in college football for the first time in quite some time, either with losses or just really, really close games. Ohio State, Nebraska, similar situation. Ohio State starts fast. Looks like they finally have everything going. Heck, they passed for 400 yards, did CJ Stroud, but they couldn't convert it to points. Crossing the 50, it got a little muddy. Weren't able to convert in the red zone, and just had some ill-opportune penalties. Stroud has to probably run it a little bit, scramble when it's there. And I'm not talking about taking hits and getting knocked around. I'm talking about taking 6 or 7 yards when it's available. Because here's what happens. As quarterbacks scramble and buy time, you always want them to keep their eyes down the field. That's what winning quarterbacks do. Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Peyton Manning, guys who are runners, guys who aren't runners, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes. You see how good they are. They always buy time and look down the field. But they also understand if there's 7 or 8 yards to get and there's an 18-yard gap between you and the next defender, Go get the 7 or 8 yards, slide or get out of bounds. Because in doing that, what it does is it will draw the defenders up when you start breaking the pocket, and that will allow you to hit those intermediate throws over their head. They will have to respect you as a runner, and you don't have to do it all the time. It's once a game, maybe twice, heck, 3 times if you're lucky. Tom Brady doesn't run much. He runs when he has to. Same thing with Mahomes, same thing with Rodgers. All of these guys, they pick their spots, but they do it when you're going to give it to them. And it's like stealing. It's free yardage and it's a free conversion. That's what Ohio State and Stroud have to get to. Defense for the Buckeyes playing much, much better. Have to clean up the big plays in the passing game. Gave up a couple of those, but 34 sacks getting done this season, looking good, have really upped their pressure on the quarterback. Done some with the linebackers bringing heat. A lot of it with just the defensive line. They're getting held all over the place, but offensively need more continuity on the offensive line. Have to be able to get more push to establish that running game. Have to take the free yards when you can get them at quarterback. But heck, they beat Nebraska 26-17, 9-point game. Another really, really close game in Lincoln. Talking about, other teams in the Plain States. Tulsa taking Cincinnati to the wire. Cincinnati jumps out, 14 points right off Jump Street. Game days there. Nippert Stadium, the Queen City. It's looking like it's going to be great. And then all of a sudden you see Tulsa just chip their way back, and they have a goal line stand, Cincinnati does, to ultimately win that game where the ball is fumbled crossing the goal line. Reviewed it a million times, called it a fumble, stayed it a fumble. Cincinnati is better than Tulsa. They're 21 points better than Tulsa, maybe 24. But they're starting to get everyone's best shots now, and it's a little bit different. Cincinnati was used to kind of, being near the top of the heap in the AAC. Now, talk of going to the Big 12, talk of getting in the college football playoff. They're the hunted on a national level, and there's going to be pressure, and there's going to be expectations. I think their guys understand that, and they know it, and never apologize for winning. But if games are closer than they should be, sometimes a little bit of that fear and doubt begin to creep in, and there's an urgency and a little bit of a panic, maybe more so than there was before. Cincinnati, same thing, trying to get it done. Close game, another top 10 team. They win, they don't win well. And now dropping down the line a little bit, I wish Auburn would have got the win. Bad Bo Nix was back again, 20 of 41. About $150 in the air, throwing an interception. Auburn Tigers, they travel to College Station. They lose. It's not a pretty game. They're not able to get a lot of offense going. I was thinking that Auburn maybe could have a backdoor way into the SEC championship if they could find a way to beat Bama at the end, win out, get there. It would have been phenomenal to see after early season struggles, and it seemed like Bo Nix was turning the corner. But there's still a lot of inconsistencies there, and he's not where he needs to be as a quarterback. A&M gets the victory, so they'll probably be jumping up. Wouldn't surprise to see them now, potentially maybe 11, possibly in the top 10. It'll really depend on how far Michigan State drops back.